Britain could be leading the world in tackling global warming by developing a new technology called carbon capture and storage. The theory is 90% of greenhouse gas emissions from power stations are captured and stored underground instead of being released into the atmosphere. The trouble is, it's yet to be tested on a commercial scale. However, it's this technology energy giant E.ON are proposing to use if the government consents to its plans to build the first new coal-fired power station in the country for over 20 years at Kingsnorth in North Kent. Environmentalists are protesting rigorously against this at a week-long climate camp in August, when they'll try to shut the existing power station down.
Let's not be fooled by what E.ON are telling us about carbon capture and storage. The industry itself says carbon capture and storage won't be ready for at least 20 years. But the fact is, Kingsnorth, if it is built, will emit around 8 million tonnes of CO2 each year, and that simply can't happen. Kingsnorth is the first of 6 new coal-fired power stations that plan to go ahead in the UK. If they do go ahead, they'll emit around 59 million tonnes of CO2, and this is just going to be devastating in a climate crisis.
Britain is doing its bit to address global warming. We signed the Kyoto Treaty more than a decade ago, promising to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 12.5% by 2012. We asked E.ON how their plans for a new coal-fired power station could be justified when the technology to reduce CO2 emissions wouldn't be available for some time. They declined our request for an interview, but gave us this statement.
Kingsnorth is one of 4 schemes that have been shortlisted for the government's carbon capture and storage competition, and whoever wins it will have to build a first relatively small-scale plant by 2012, with a much larger plant by 2019. Once that second plant has been built and proven, the technology can be exported to other coal-fired stations around the world.
Jeff Meaden is the Principal Geography Lecturer at Canterbury Christ Church University.
While we don't have the carbon capture storage facilities working, it seems to me totally illogical and unethical to build a fleet of coal-fired power stations. Other countries like the United States have cancelled all of their coal-fired power stations that they were planning to build simply because we don't have this technology. We should do the same here.
In Britain, we also have an urgent problem. We must replace a third of our power generating capacity in the next decade, as our oldest coal stations and nuclear reactors are decommissioned. So how do we avoid an energy crisis?
It's pointless spending money on finite fuels. We ought to be going the solar route. There's already the technology exists to have a huge number of solar farms in North Africa. Those solar farms could be providing all of Europe's power supplies within the next 20 years. It's going to take 15 to 20 years before these coal-fired power stations come on anyway. What's the point in using old technology? We should be moving to new technology which will help save the planet, not destroy the planet as coal will.
But E.ON disagrees.
We as a company and as a country face 3 issues: keeping the lights on, reducing carbon emissions, and keeping energy as affordable as possible. We need a diversity of generation that will include renewables, but which also has to include new nuclear, new gas, and new cleaner coal. Only by doing that can we hope to meet all 3 of those targets.
Gordon Brown, it seems, is also thinking along the same lines, because not only is he expected to give Kingsnorth the green light, but is anticipated to reveal a shortlist of at least 8 nuclear power stations to be built within 15 years, including a new atomic energy station at Dungeness on Kent's south coast.
And there's loads of potential solutions on the way, tidal power, wave energy, we know about solar power, various sorts of solar panels, all sorts of things that we could be doing, and this is what we need to be doing now.
There are renewable energy projects being developed, one of which E.ON itself is involved with, called the London Array Project. When built, it'll be the world's biggest offshore wind farm, located off the North Kent coast, and it could supply electricity to homes across the county. This will also help the government meet European targets it's just agreed to, which could require at least a third of the UK's electricity to come from renewable energy sources by 2020.
My guess is that the next 15 years are really critical. If by say 2000 and early 2020s, if we haven't got then onto having the bulk of our energy as renewable, then, well, you could almost say the planet's lost in terms of the devastation that's going to be caused by rampant global warming.
What happens next is down to the government, and with 228 MPs calling for a public inquiry into Kingsnorth before a decision is taken about its future, anything could happen. What is clear is that people, not just in Kent but around the world, are watching.